First one is going to be the hammer. This is going to be drilling all the way through, so we'll do it in sections. The first one is going to be off of a left punch. So you're going to be using your right arm. In the internal arts, we have the movement. Obviously, a lot of you will have seen it with like Wing Chun and things like Bong Sao. It's similar, but we don't use the same physics. Okay, so we use this as a bump. Rather than pushing forwards and controlling the line, as Dan throws a punch, we just use it to just move the punch initially, but also to reposition ourselves for the strike. Okay? So as that punch comes in, this is going to be your first movement. These two movements are the basis of the internal arts defense. So pung on this one and hinge on this one. You're not going to be using the pung for this one. As soon as it comes in, your first contact that needs to be straight, you're going to be bumping just under the arm. So as you pop it like this, it has to be done with the waist. Okay? So if Dan leaves his arm out, it's going to be like that, and it doesn't travel away from your center line. Okay? So it's not an arm movement like this. It's with my body like this, and then it repositions me just on the outside ready to take that shot. Because it's a drill and we're learning other things rather than just to smash him straight in the face, we're going to do our first strike with the hammer, and that's going to be to colon 10. So just on the top here. If you miss and the punch comes through you too much, you can hit colon 12, which is just above the elbow. So if you grab hold of somebody's elbow like this and you pull them, where your thumb sits on the bone is colon 12. Okay? So the first movement that we're going to start with, as that punch comes in, and then that hammers down. Obviously, if this was going to be self-defense and like realistic self-defense, smashing the arms is great if you get it, but you don't want to be aiming for it. So as soon as that can be your shot coming over the top. For the time being, learning your Dimak placements and learning the movements, we're going to strike to colon 10. So again, colon 10 is probably just a couple of fingers below the elbow, and if you push in, it splits the extensor muscles on the back of the arm. Okay, so just straight down from lung 5. If you push in, you'll find a little gap in between the muscles right there. And you can just roll that punch in. So it's not a straight hammer like this. You're going to be hooking it back ever so slightly. Okay? So that should further bump the arm away from your body. Okay? So it's something that you could use straight off of a grab to here. You can just smash straight into there. Much easier to hit because it's a lot closer to your body than trying to go for him. So that bit is going to be right on the top of the arm. So the first movement we're going to look at is just linking those first two, the bump, and then that circle, which is the waist turning to the left. Okay, so if I do it forwards, you're going to go left, right, left. Okay, and the hand just turns over. We'll first go through the rest of the entire drill because this is a very short one. It's a very easy one to work out if you get that first movement. The first one, as we mentioned, is going to be your hinge. You roll over and you strike into colon 10, colon 12, whichever one you want to take. Now, as you open the body back up, you've got to lengthen it slightly and you want to take the jaw or the throat. So obviously taking a fist across the throat is very difficult because you don't have a lot of gap. So you can take the edge of the jaw as you come around. Any stomach points that run across the jaw, you're more than welcome to have. And then the last one, you load the body to the right, and then you're going to release and strike to the left. So straight into gallbladder 3, straight into the temple. So every single time you're turning that hand over and striking in. We'll run through a couple of details on how to generate a little bit more power out of each movement. But what we're going to do, to start off with, we want to get the first two linked and striking into a pad. So we need to get really good contact and power out of that first one with very minimal movement. And so from here, as I throw the punch, he's going to roll over and strike. Okay.
Sorry, go on, do it again.
Oh no, pick the fucking target. Okay, so as it comes in, it has to be quick. So that second hit has to realistically land before the arm drops out of the way, which is where you need to move your body slightly to compensate the distance. So as the punch comes in, it has to be quicker. And then again, just trying to snap the wrist on the end as well. So as soon as the hand comes over, instead of just a big hefty slam, you want to shock the point as you take the arm, because then the body will move on your opponent rather than you having to do too much work. So as soon as that comes in here, as soon as I strike that this way, it opens up the target. Even if I miss the next one, which I cut across, I can still take the last one, which is the temple there. Okay, so the idea of doing these Fajing movements is that as you move through, at any point that you miss anything, you're going to pick up somewhere further down the line. So 1, 2, 3 on the jaw if you can take it. If not, just pull through and then take it into the temple. But for this one, we're just going to go onto the pad, first bump, circle and strike, and try to get the momentum to happen in the time it takes for that arm to drop or reload to a guard position. Right, so when you're taking this onto the pad, if you've got one of the forearm pads, it definitely helps, because that's going to be what gets your impact kind of on point. If you aren't using the pads, you shouldn't be able to do this too many times, okay? Neither the person that's doing it or the person that's being hit, because that is quite a lot of force when you're going arm on arm, because you're technically striking near enough the same point for both of you, okay? Which is muscle on muscle. When you're doing the full drill on pads, you're just for the sake of it going to miss on your second throat shot as it comes through. So you can do the first one, come over the top and strike, reload, and then strike that last one, okay? Every single time your arms are not going wider than the shoulders. So every time you bump, you strike, and then you strike. The reason being that if you start drifting outside of the shoulders, then once you miss, you're in real trouble, okay? So if I follow through too much on that first one, and I go like that, then I'm off balance and I'm also going to catch a shot, okay? Because me bumping his arm has done nothing apart from set up my strike, okay? That's my entry, that's how I get in. If that kind of goes well and the rest kind of goes to pot, then it doesn't take a lot for him to just bang that one straight in my ear and then I'm in trouble, okay? This is why every single time, as soon as that one comes in, like this, whether I hit or miss, it's no wider than the shoulder. Obviously, it's going to take a split second for you to recalibrate if you miss, but the idea being that I can switch out and I can get another hand forwards, or I can get a deterrent back into his face. Okay, so just for the time being, as you strike the pad, but don't follow through if it's going to take your arm out. You want to just pop it, and then you can go backwards, and then the same thing again. So you're going to get 1, 2, 3 on there, with the waist turns. If you're starting to add Fajing to it, it'll be a hell of a lot quicker. And the person that's using the pad, just hold it in the same place, because the strike is the same. You're going to strike in, I mean it's a slight turn, but it's the same thing. I strike out the same, this way, and then as I turn that in, I need to roll my knuckle into gallbladder 3 or the temple. It's not going to be like striking a pad. This is solid bone. So you want to make sure that you get a really good connection, which is again that hammer there for you to follow up with. So just practice the double strike to make sure that you're not drifting outside, and then we'll get on to the last bit. I'll kind of give you some context for this, because obviously people are going to directly link this to a fighting application. People aren't generally, I wouldn't say they were comfortable fighting like this, which is what punch hinge is. But this movement here, even though some people can have it as a guard, and obviously lots of martial arts, they have this position, you still would rather have both hands up guarding your head. You're going to take far more hits lower down than you will higher up if you're going to survive the whole thing. Right, okay, so to do the full thing, you can have an extra pad so you can do the return shot as well. First of all, you won't need that one for a second. First of all, if you want to pressure test this, you must take full power punches before you can even think about utilizing it as part of the self-defense thing, okay? Because the problem is, this is going to work so much different the heavier that punch is. If you can work with bigger people that punch heavier, great, okay? But the fact of the matter is, if you hesitate, if you don't step in with confidence, then throw the punch, you're going to do this and you're not hinging anything, because your power is drawing backwards. As soon as that comes in, you have to be in, and you have to accept whether you get hit or not, okay? If you don't practice enough and you get hit in the face, that's your problem. Get used to it, deal with it. But this really is for guard, okay? So yes, we're using a hinge. This is worst case scenario. If we were doing it from the guard, it's exactly the same. It's even better. All I'm going to do, set it back like it's a punch coming. So you want to have this realistic. So that punch, if you throw it in heavy, okay, and again, this, that's what you need to work with, because that's the kind of power that's going to knock you out, okay? If it's not a threat, then it's not going to work. If your hands are down, then you're at a disadvantage. This is worst case scenario. If you train this, then at least you've got something. I like to think that when you're doing self-defense is only a problem when you don't know it's going to happen. And that's really what self-defense is. If you square up to somebody and you know they're going to hit you, this is what I would consider fighting. Okay, so this is more akin to, you know it's going to kick off. Whether it's deemed as self-defense is something else, but real self-defense, I wouldn't even know it was coming. I'd be like here. Okay? And that's the worst place that you're going to be in when it happens. If I'm in this position and that comes in, I have to have a reflex that's going to do that for me. I don't even think about that when it happens, okay? So again, make sure that your partner's aiming for your head, and when it comes in, that hinge is just what kind of gives me a split second to come to terms with what's happening. Now, if we're in I would consider this more of a fighting situation, okay? I know it's going to happen, I know he's going to smash me in the face, and I should probably hit him by now, but we'll deal with that later. Right, okay, so if I've got my guard up, the same thing happens, exactly the same body mechanics. I'm going to bump the arm the same way that I did with my hand low. So as it comes in, here, and now I don't have to load my hand, it can go in infinitely quicker, okay? So, punch. See, that shot's going to come straight off the first movement. And that's going to be what's usable within this drill. Everything, all the components will teach you a ton of stuff. But if you want to have it as more of a self-defense application thing, then when that comes in, we're working off the left hand, the heavier punch is more likely to come off the right, same thing happens, and you strike. But it's because we want to use our right hand for the drill, not because we want to work off the left punch. Okay? This works the same on the inside, so if I'm stood here, and that punch comes in, these movements still work the same. I just take the head, take the throat, And then the targets might vary, but you still get the same feel. We have gloves, so you can throw the punch relatively hard, okay? But first of all, you must be in range. It must have to hit you in the face. Please do not say, let's go slow. Because if you go slow, it means, let's not do it properly until I feel better, okay? Because we want to try to get to that position where you've got both hands in position here, and if you are not defending yourself from here, then you need to take a few steps backwards, okay? So from here, the punch comes in, and that's my shot. You know, the momentum and the rebound that I get off taking that arm out of the flight, it just makes you want to just smash them. So, there, you know, you've got both hands ready to go, okay? So that'll be the last stage.